Hi, I'm Jessica and I'm with Nexus Youth and Family Services. This is Mental Health 101. What everyone should know about mental health and how to break the stigma. What is mental health? Mental health is an individual's emotional, psychological, and social well-being. It affects how we think, how we feel, how we act, how we choose to handle stress, and how we can relate to others. Our mental health also goes through developmental stages throughout our life due to maturity and changes and life experiences. There's also some factors that play a key role, like the biological factor, our brain chemistry, and the genes that we are created with. It also goes to life experiences such as trauma or abuse or an incident that could have altered your thinking. There's also family history of mental illness, and this can play a really important factor that a lot of people look over. People don't realize that someone in their family could have suffered from a mental illness because it went undiagnosed for so long. But it is a really key factor, so it's important to keep that in mind. What is mental health and what is it not? Mental health is something that everybody has. It's very real, it's complex, it's constantly changing. It can be positive and it can be negative. Sometimes it's something someone needs to look after. Sometimes it doesn't affect someone at all that they don't realize. It's also worth making time for. It's very much part of being a human, and it's very physical, and it's definitely on a continuum. But mental health is not a sign of weakness. It's not something to be shameful over. It's not just all in your head or in your mind. It's not always something negative. It's not something that you have to decide if you have or that you need to think about or feel broken over. Mental health is very much real. It's not fake. It's not fixed. It's not a snap out of it kind of situation. It's something that needs to be dealt with. And mental health awareness and well-being, it's not just getting a diagnosis and having something wrong with me. Sometimes it's I saw something really scary and that's really affecting me and I don't know how to understand how to process it. So I need help processing it. It doesn't mean you're broken because you have a hard time with something that was really scary that happened. That's okay. Sometimes it's going through a divorce. Sometimes it's a death in the family or a coworker, or it's a big traumatic event like a car accident, or it's just sadness. That could be depression, but maybe it's just a phase in life. Maybe it's a changing in your life because of something medical that's happened to you. It's okay to get help with mental health awareness and not have a disorder. But there are disorders. There's lots of them. Here are a few. You have anxiety disorders, mood disorders, psychotic disorders, eating disorders, impulse, personality, and post-traumatic stress. And post-traumatic stress is not limited to one category of people. Anyone can be hit with post-traumatic stress from any traumatic event in their life. And that's all subjective to the person. Some common red flags to be aware of when considering your mental health. Eating habits. Are you eating unhealthy? How is your sleeping? Is your energy low, non-existent? Do you have this numbing feeling to emotions? Do you have physical aches and pains? Do you feel helplessness or hopelessness? Do you feel like you're smoking or drinking or even using recreational drugs more than usual or prescribed drugs more than you should be? Are you feeling confused or forgetful, on edge or angry? Are you worried or scared? Are you yelling and fighting with family and friends abnormally out of who you are? Do you have severe mood swings? Persistent thoughts or memories that you can't control? Do you feel like you're hearing voices and believing things that are not true? What about thinking about harming yourself? Do you wish you weren't here? What about the inability to perform daily tasks? All of these are very common red flags. These are things to be mindful of and consider looking into your mental health when you come across these. Ways to keep your mental health healthy. Ways to maintain positive mental health. Getting professional help, staying connected to family and friends in the community, keeping a positive outlook. Physical activity, helping others, getting a good night's sleep is very important. Our sleep plays a huge factor into our mental health. And developing healthy coping skills. By maintaining all of your mental health with these positive ways, it gives you the ability to operate at full potential, cope in healthy ways to stressors in life, work productively, have meaningful relationships with friends, families, and the community. Ways to improve your mental health. Regular medical care, eating healthy, exercise. Exercise is such a crucial part of mental health because it really gets our body completely working in all aspects. And when it does, it helps our body's chemistry produce what we need to stay healthy, both physically and mentally. Set those boundaries. It's okay to say no. It's okay to say, I can't do that. It's also okay to say, my mental health can't take that. I need to put my mental health first. It's okay to be aware that you can only handle so much, and taking on someone else's burdens can be very difficult. And if you're not in a very stable mental health state, that's not something that you're capable of doing, and it's okay to say no. Eliminate bad habits. Be mindful of those habits. Is this causing me harm? Should I work to decrease that habit? Asking for help. That's the biggest thing you can do. And I know that can be really scary for people sometimes, reaching out and asking for help when they need it. But it's the smallest thing you can do by reaching out and saying, hey, I need help. And that person can be there for you and make a massive impact in your life. Do more of what makes you happy. Consider what truly brings you joy. Find it and increase that in your life. Set goals, healthy goals that will help you benefit your mental health. Like, I want to go walking every day. I know that that's healthy exercise, keeping my body healthy, and it's a really positive goal. Those 3 things can help and boost my mental health. Also, explore a new hobby. Try something different, something new. Trying new things and exploring new things can be exciting, and it also boosts our mental health and our endorphins. Spending time in nature. Being outside and breathing in the fresh air, as long as you don't have allergies, right, can be very helpful. It can really help our body breathe in and just intensify what we're feeling and give us the ability to really let go and just explore and get out and really get those hormones and those endorphins moving inside of our body. There's also spending some time meditating, really relaxing, calming ourselves. If we find that we can be very, very high intensity and high strung with our emotions and our thinking and even our everyday busy life, taking that time to really slow down gives our body the ability to reset. Because when we're constantly in that intensity, we're constantly in that fight or flight mode, and we don't have that ability to relax. And without that ability to relax, then we can't be calm. We can't constantly be in fight or flight, or we're never going to find a happy mindset. Then there's communicating your needs. Communication. Communication is so important with others and being able to communicate what you need. And sometimes that may be scary and that may be hard to do. But take the time to really think about it. Write it out. If you don't feel like you can say it, write things that you wish you could do or things you want to say or your needs and figure out a way you can communicate that with others. Nowadays, we have text message and messaging and emails. And while that seems impersonal, at times that can make it easier to communicate with others what we need because it's harder for us to communicate in person because we don't want to feel like we're a burden or feel like we're bothering someone in a way that can be embarrassing for us, right? So take the time to write it out to really figure out what's the best way to express your needs. You're not alone. Mental health is everywhere, and mental health matters to everyone. 1 in 5 adults will have a diagnosis or be diagnosable at any time in any given year. Everyone has something going on. It just matters on how they understand how to handle it. Mental health, like I've said, it's more than just a diagnosis. It's also something that you're going through. It can be maintained and dealt with by going to therapy. Going to therapy is not a bad thing. It's not an unhealthy thing. It's not an embarrassing thing. It's an okay, great thing that you can do to go and see someone. If you have a cold, you're going to go to the doctor. It doesn't mean you're dying, right? It means you have a cold and you need to get medicine for it. If you have something going on that's affecting your mental health, it doesn't mean you're broken. It doesn't mean you have a diagnosis. It doesn't mean it's going to be a lifelong battle. It just means you need to go to a doctor who can help you with that. And that's where counseling comes in. It's okay to have counseling. It's okay to seek treatment. How to have a conversation about mental health. Talking about mental health is very important, and it's a vital, vital necessity. And if we're completely honest, it hasn't been talked about enough. It's always been a shh or a hush hush, or I don't want to embarrass myself, or don't talk about that. People are going to judge me, or you don't have a problem, just get over it. That's not the way to have this conversation. To talk about mental health is very important. And whether you're talking about yourself or someone else is coming to you, there are some important do's and don'ts you should be aware of. One, listen without judgment. Don't interrupt or speak over the person. Ask how you can help. Don't tell them how they should feel. Validate their feelings, letting them know that you care about them, that they're not a burden to you. Don't belittle them. Don't try to jump in with solutions and try to solve the problem. Ask them what they need. Let them know that it's okay, and it's also okay for you to not fix that problem. It's important for them to seek proper help and not to get a diagnosis for someone who's unqualified. Also, keep in touch, even if you don't get a response, and be very empathetic to it. Don't be scared to reach out or to speak about feelings, and don't isolate the person. Be helpful and be understanding, but also don't be expecting anything. Give them the space that they need. It's also important to reach out to those who have the important knowledge needed to help you, to reach out to an expert or someone within the medical and mental health field. But if that's a little scary and you're not quite ready and you're worrying if you need help, then reach out to a friend or a colleague or a family member, or reach out to someone in the community like a teacher or a pastor. It's okay to reach out, and it's okay to talk about mental health. Suicide. Suicide can be prevented. There are some things that you can look out for that you may not really think are symptoms or signs of suicide, but they could be, and so it's important to look for them. And those warning signs for suicidal thoughts are not always easy to see, and you can't always see someone's pain. It's not always physical. Sometimes it's just inside, and it's mental pain that we can't see. But here are some ways that you can. Seeing someone putting their affairs in order, becoming withdrawal, increasing their use of alcohol or drugs, giving away their possessions, becoming more angry than normal, feeling no sense of purpose, talking about death or suicide or wanting to die or harm themselves, reckless behavior, more anxious or agitated, their changes in their sleep patterns or your sleep patterns, the feeling of hopelessness, helplessness, or desperate, sudden mood changes and feeling alone. These are things that you can look out for someone else or within yourself on if you're maybe leaning towards it and don't know what's wrong, or you're too scared to talk about it, but you find yourself doing these things. Reach out. And if you see someone doing these things, reach out. You can help save a life by recognizing the signs and starting the conversation about suicide. Suicide is preventable. It's not a fun subject to talk about, and a lot of people avoid it because of that. And it can be really scary to ask someone, hey, are you considering death by suicide? But guess what? That question can be the difference in life or death for that person. You can help change their life because they feel like no one cares and no one wants to help them and no one sees them, or no one is going to care if they're gone, or life would be better if they're not here. But by asking that question, scary or not, you're letting them know that they matter and you do care. And that's the difference in saving a life. Just a few words. How can I help you? Are you okay? Are you considering death by suicide? Those are things that you can ask. Destigmatizing mental health. Your words matter. A lot of times people don't realize someone's struggling with mental health, so using common words that would seem everyday normal to you can also be harmful to someone, and it's important to be mindful. So let's look at the list. Mental health destigmatization. Don't say someone's crazy. Say they're mentally ill. Don't use a mental illness in your everyday common speech. For example, he's so OCD. OCD is definitely a real thing, and people don't really realize what it truly is. Use mental illness terms only when intending to discuss the diagnosis of mental illness. Don't say, I'm so depressed, or I had a panic attack, if it's not true. Say I'm sad or I'm nervous instead of actual mental illnesses and symptoms. Don't use terminology for death casually, like I would die, or I could just kill myself, or I'm going to kill you. Be mindful of the terminology. Only use this terminology if you are truly struggling. Avoid using suicide language as your everyday language or colloquial language. Don't undermine or put down mental illness treatment such as therapy or counseling or coping skills. Regard mental health resources as a positive and useful tool. It's okay to need help. Don't negatively refer to psychological medications. I understand that people don't like the idea of taking meds and drugs, and for a long time they were just thrown at everybody. But sometimes they're needed, sometimes they're warranted, and it's important to understand the value of them and if they're needed, and respect that. Understand and respect that psychological medications are beneficial and necessary at some point. You never know. One day it could be you. So just be mindful of the way we treat things. Stigmas. It's a negative connotation or a negative way or negative thoughts surrounding a topic. Mental health is filled with stigmas. There are literally 7 different types of stigmas that someone can come up against when talking about different things, especially mental illness. There's public stigma, there's self-stigma, perceived stigma. That's where you believe that others may have negative thoughts about mental health, but you don't truly know. There's label avoidance, scared to put a diagnosis on it, scared to know if something's wrong, I don't want to label it. There's stigma by association, structural stigma, and even health practitioner stigma. It's important to understand that it's okay to need help, it's okay not to be okay, and it's not okay to put negative thoughts around something that's so vital and important and can save a person's life. Or yours. How can you help yourself or a loved one? There are a few things that you can do to reach out. 1, it's important to never self-diagnose. Always seek professional treatment or help. Your insurance company can give you a list of providers, both medical and therapeutic. A doctor can rule out any physical condition, and a therapist can help you develop proper coping skills. But a therapist and a doctor can also refer you to a psychiatrist if you're needing a higher level of care. And it's okay to need that higher level of care. It's okay to not be okay. By seeking the help and getting treatment, it helps you get your life back in order, more stable, and take back that power so that you have control over your life. It's one of the best and greatest things you can do for you is to reach out and get help. Here are some community resources that you can use when in crisis or looking for help. There's the National Suicide Prevention Hotline. There's also a texting line, 741-741. You can text line and get directly connected to a counselor. There's also a Hispanic line, and we have our local Calaveras County local crisis line, as well as Amador County local crisis line. And then there's suicidepreventionlifeline.org, www.samhsa.gov as well. Please reach out. Don't hesitate. If you're worried, no matter what time, day or night, you can reach out to a hotline. It's okay to not be okay. And no health without mental health. If you don't take care of your mental health, you're not going to be a healthy person, and it's important to reach out. Thank you for taking time out of your day to watch this video. I truly hope that it helped and gave you a little bit of understanding of the mental health. It's okay to not be okay. It's okay to need help for a short period of time. It's okay to not be okay, and it's okay to need help for a long periods of time. The first step is putting yourself first and reaching out and getting help. Please subscribe to our channel where you can find other videos about mental health and awareness. Also, you can reach out to Nexus Youth and Family Services. Thank you so much.